We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
What the hell is that?
Well, we knew there was going to be some growing pains with this new regime and stuff, guys, but wasn't pretty on Monday night, but we'll get to that here in a minute. Welcome to episode 77. We got a lot to go over here tonight. Couple of NFL things we want to talk about quick first. Then, of course, we'll break down that fail in Philly. Look ahead to the ever improving Detroit Lions coming into town this weekend. And of course, we got a Brunswick's Best later on and a few other things along the way. So let's get rolling, shall we? A couple NFL notes. Probably the biggest one out of week 2, 49ers quarterback Trey Lance broke his ankle and done for the year.
Wow.
They're looking like geniuses now for keeping Garoppolo around.
Yep. It couldn't have played itself out any better. You're almost like, it's like, wow. I can't. It played itself out as best as it could, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I feel bad for Lance because I mean he hadn't looked great to start with, but
I was gonna say maybe it's a blessing in disguise, honestly, Rhino.
Yeah,
for him to him not have to sit, for him to have to sit another year, because like you said, it wasn't looking the greatest starting out, and
unfortunately, him sitting with a busted ankle isn't going to improve. It isn't going to give him any more experience in playing either.
When you got to do the things that you can't do on the field is, take more advantage of your book time and getting to learn the playbook, get it, small things that you can work on.
But the problem is, I think, right, at least in the short term, this probably makes the 49ers better, which is worse for the rest of the NFC. But
and it doesn't look good for Trey Lance though either, because if Garoppolo keeps it up, who knows? Maybe they're willing to look to shop Trey Lance around the league.
Yeah, for what they gave up to get him, I don't know that they're ready to cut bait yet. But I don't know. He's not a Viking, so we won't worry about it too much. It just,
right.
It was kind of major injury news, so figured we bring it up. After 2 weeks, got a few surprise teams, both on the good side and the bad side. On the good side, we have Miami, who
wow,
Tua threw what was it 6 touchdowns?
Six
this last week. Tyreek
plus yards.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill went off.
Waddle went off just to, as well, but not like Hill did, but shit.
Unfortunately, even though, as to coin our buddies Drew and Ted, nobody cares about your fantasy. The one team I was playing against had Tyreek Hill, so I got my ass whooped in that league. But beyond Miami, our opponent for this weekend, the Detroit Lions, are looking quite well. We'll get into that here in a little bit.
We had kind of pegged that too before the season even started.
Yeah, we had talked about Detroit being better this year. Jacksonville, not looking too shabby. The Giants are kind of a surprise team. Brian Daboll's got those guys playing pretty good over there. They're 2-0 now.
Yeah.
Then kind of on the flip side, The surprisingly bad team so far this year, Indianapolis Colts.
Surprising for sure.
They tied with
Texans the first week.
No.
Wasn't it the Texans?
Was it Texans or was it Jacksonville?
No, it was the Texans that first week.
And then they lost to Jacksonville. No, they played Jacksonville week 1, lost to Jacksonville, I think. Well, either way, they're 0-1-1. Then the Broncos look like a shit show.
There's already fans calling for Nathaniel Hackett's job.
Well, after 2 weeks, I mean, I don't care who it is. After 2 weeks, it's too early to be calling for people's heads. But
it is.
Early indications is we may have dodged a bullet by not hiring Nathaniel Hackett as our head coach.
That's 2 bullets we dodged this offseason.
Yeah.
Looking like Neo on the Matrix.
Yeah. Neo, not Nail. Nail is that white stuff you put on your sandwiches.
Not mayo. Neo.
Oh.
On the Matrix? Neo?
Yeah, I know
not
who
Neo.
Neo. I know who Neo is, but you said Nail.
Oh, whatever. It's Neo.
Yeah, I know. The Bengals definitely are hitting a Super Bowl hangover. They're 0-2. Joe Burrow has been sacked about 72 times already, I think.
Ugly at Cincinnati.
He's got a buttload of turnovers and stuff. It's just not good.
Which is a big amount, by the way.
Yes, that's quite a large amount.
A buttload. It's a little bit more, not quite a shitload.
A buttload is not quite a crap ton, but it's still a lot. And then also the Las Vegas Raiders, also 0-2. Should have been 1-1, but if not for a very odd ending to the game against the Cardinals last weekend. So, but with that, I think we kind of covered. I don't think there was anything else real big in the NFL going on other than some of that stuff. But so let's get this over with, shall we? We will roll into the recap of the fail in Philly. Welcome to the shit show, I guess.
Oh no! We suck again!
There wasn't much of anything that went right in that game.
No.
And for as good as we looked against Green Bay, that's as bad as we looked against the Eagles. I mean, it looked like we were coaching scared. We were playing scared. Donatello
didn't even tell the story of this game, honestly.
No. Donatello
it should have honestly been 42-10, like the Philly podcast said that we were on prior to the game.
Honestly, we should have won that game 28-24.
Which one?
The game we just played against Philly. We left at least 21 points on the board, and we'll get into that in a minute. I mean, but of course, you know, one of the things that we talked about wanting to see in this game when we did our preview last week was Kirk coming out and dispelling the narratives about how he cannot play in prime time, how he cannot do this and that. And what did he do? But he came right out and reinforced those narratives.
I was just going to say reinforced. That's exactly the right word for it.
And I know talking about this with some people at some point in time, they don't become narratives anymore. It just becomes fact.
Frustrating and annoying.
It is. I mean, I don't know what happened with Kirk on Monday night, but you know, it got to the point. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions in the second half, and they were
all of them are pretty fucking ugly too.
Yeah, two of them especially were terrible. That first one, you can kind of spread the blame.
It was more Jefferson's issue than his. Yes.
Yeah, you can spread the blame to Jefferson too, because he cut his route deep and went behind Slay and
when he should have went across the front. Yeah.
But those other two were just god awful terrible.
When it rains, it starts to pour, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it got to the point when after that interception, that Jordan Hicks had that got us set up at the 9-yard line. I remember doing our little game thread deal we're doing on our Gallerhorn group on Facebook. And when Hicks didn't score, it got down to 9. I made a comment on there. I said, "What?" I said, "And now watch, Kirk will throw another interception."
Boom.
The first pass he threw should have been intercepted, and then he turned right around and threw it right to frickin' Darius Slay again. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and he was there again. He was taking the check down all the time. You know, they weren't even trying to go deep with Jefferson. I don't know what the deal was there. As good a job as they did getting him open against Green Bay's secondary, which is no slouch. They
kind of were forcing it to cook there, it seemed like, to begin the game. Honestly,
it seemed like they were trying to force the ball a lot because of, a couple of those interceptions. Kirk looked like he was trying to force the ball to Jefferson and throwing it in spots where he shouldn't be. But then he would turn around a couple of those, they didn't get Adam Thielen involved until late in the game, but a couple of those darts to Thielen on those ending drives. I mean, that one he threw right in between two defenders and right in the bucket to Thielen. So, I mean,
it's mind-boggling sometimes.
It is. But
and no shame on us for calling it out like it is either.
No, and we're not. The Kirk stands are going to be, oh, they're hating Kirk again. There goes Vikings Uncensored back again with the Kirk hate. No.
How can you not be back and forth with this guy?
Right.
How can you not be back and forth with this fucking
because
guy?
As good as there again, last week he looked incredible against Green Bay. Yes. We were talking about seeing the new Kirk and everything else. Well, the old Kirk came to visit on Monday night. Kirk's numbers.
I would love to ride with Kirk.
But, but
he makes it freaking hard.
This just, again, it reinforces the narrative that Kirk is a good but not great quarterback that, in prime time and when the lights are bright, he struggles.
Come on, Kirk, for real, man.
Yep. But just looking at Kirk's numbers are 27 of 46 for 221 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions.
And a fumble.
4.8 yards per attempt on his throws. A 51.1 passer rating, which up until that last drive, when they were basically just letting us dink and dunk down the field, his passer rating was like 35 something. Now, again, I believe Christopher Gates brought this up on Vikings Report Rewind after the thing. If you drop back and throw the ball into the dirt on every play, your passer rating is 38.1. And Kirk's was like 35 up until that final drive. There again, another narrative, garbage time Kirk.
Give us something to believe in, man.
Right, for more than a week.
Yes. I want to get behind you so bad, Kirk. If you're watching out there, because I know you just love Vikings Uncensored.
Right.
I want to get in that. I do
too. I don't want to have to come on here and call out anybody on the team for playing like shit. But this week we don't have enough time to call everybody out because everybody played like shit.
Bingo.
But again, like I mentioned a little bit ago, we left the way by my numbers, we figured at least 21 points off the board. That pass that Irv Smith did his best Troy Williamson impersonation on.
On second down, Cousins gets hit, lets it go. Pass is dropped by Irv Smith.
There was no question that was a touchdown. He had 5 yards on the defender and pulling away right in the freaking hands. He had it for a second and then dropped it.
And then it bopped out the hip.
Yep. It should have never got to the hip.
No, it shouldn't. He should have tucked it right up.
Tucked and go, but he tried to do this or whatever, and he basically just pitched it right on through. That would have been 7 there, and that was early enough. If we'd have scored there,
swung the momentum back to us.
Yeah, the entire game could have been different. But it seemed like every time we got momentum in that game, we gave it right back. The second one was The
We just
The
got
block-
crushed, man. It was
yeah, the second touchdown that we basically left on the board was that blocked field goal. That the one
could
good
have changed things.
the one good play that Patrick Peterson had.
This one's blocked. Blocked by Peterson. And picked up back the other way is Chris Boyd. And the Vikings get a shot of life.
Chris Boyd picks it up and runs it all the way back inside the, down just about to the red zone. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, when Boyd got tackled, I'm like, well, there goes 7 points. And sure enough, that Kirk turns around, throws an interception.
Yep, that was my thought process
think
as well during that moment.
Wasn't that the one that he either overshot Jefferson or undershot Thielen, and then the defender was right in between the two of them and picked it off?
Yeah.
So there was that one. And then the one where Jordan Hicks got the interception, brought it down to the 9-yard line.
Week on their days off on Wednesdays to catch up and talk about what's going on with each other.
Yeah, that's nice. Here's one off the hands of Gainwell and intercepted by Hicks. Hicks is looking for the end zone, but he'll settle for the 9-yard line.
Did nothing with it.
And yeah, well, no, we did something with it. We threw it to Darius Slay again. So if we would have scored on those 3 drives, the final score would have been 28-24.
Granted, that is if Philly didn't do more. There's a lot of work.
But I mean, for as bad as the defense played as a whole for the whole game, and I mean, Troy Aikman was even calling it out for a good portion of the game. It was, well, they're not changing anything. They're just doing that same shell coverage over and over and over and over again. But we held them scoreless the second half because it was 24-7 at halftime. Or no,
that's probably because they left the gas.
Oh no, they did. No, it was 21-7. They got a field. No, the field goal was at the end of the first half, wasn't it? I'm trying to remember, but I think
to watch all together, man.
But I'm pretty sure we held them scoreless in that second half. But I tell you what, though, if I see another running back screen thrown into the freaking line, I'm lucky I didn't have anything that I could throw next to me when I was watching that game. We had to run that play a dozen times, and it didn't work.
I was kind of questioning whether or not Zimmer was calling in plays.
I was wondering too that if Zimmer didn't sneak into Philadelphia and shove O'Connell in the locker and come back out and.
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected to see.
No,
very bad taste in my mouth still.
Yep. Yeah, but since we started on the defense, I mean, we gave up, was it 487 yards or something like that? Just shy of 500 yards. One of the keys to the game that we talked about in the show last week, keep an eye on Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts absolutely killed us.
Not only on the ground, but in
the air. Yeah, he had 330 some yards passing.
He went, what, a quarter and a half before he threw an incompletion?
Yeah, something like, I mean, he looked like Steve Young on his best day out there. I made a comment during the game. He looked like a combination of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Mike Vick at one point in time there.
Yeah, his confidence is gleaming right now. I mean,
the guy played a hell of a game.
He did. You got to go hats off to Jalen Hurts on that game. It was a hell of a game by the kid.
But we did nothing to slow him down. I mean, we did get a couple of sacks, but for the most part, that one touchdown run that he had, I'm pretty sure the only people that didn't know that fake handoff and him going around the end was coming were the 11 guys wearing white jerseys on the field, because everybody bit on that fake and he just right around the end.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Then to make matters worse, of course, Andrew Booth Jr. did not play. Still got nursing that quad injury. And on top of that, Harrison Smith left the game with a concussion. He is still in concussion protocol, so it's questionable as to whether or not he'll play this weekend against Detroit, which doesn't help our chances any there either. But we'll get into the Detroit game here in a little bit. But Any other high points, low points, points of contention you want to discuss about this Eagles game?
I just hope that we can learn from this, put it in the rearview mirror, and get better. You know, sometimes you just need to play better, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I saw.
We just need to play better, Rhino.
Yeah. I saw a comment from Adam Thielen, and whether I think it might have been Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it was said, but he said it was just at least commenting on the mood in the locker room and stuff. They said it was a lot more of a positive. There wasn't the screaming and yelling and people just moping in the corners kind of things after that kind of game.
Well, optimism and negativity is, I think, is the word used.
Everybody was sitting there,
trying to figure out how to get better.
Yeah. What happened? How do we fix it? How do we get better? What do we do for this week so that doesn't happen to us again, kind of thing. So that's promising. I do like the fact that in the post-game press conference, Kevin O'Connell came out and said, "This is on me. I didn't do enough to get the team ready to play. And, it starts and ends with me," he said, basically, which is a far cry better than blaming onside kicks for your incompetence. So, I mean, and, taking responsibility for it is great. Well and good. I like to see that, but especially, like I said, compared to what we've seen over the past 7-8 years. But
when you're throwing the team under the bus,
right. But now the key is, can you go out and do, what are you going to do about it? Can you go out and, correct those mistakes and fix that so that we do not get rolled through the cat litter this weekend against Detroit?
I don't think it could get much worse than what it was. So we know what your bottom line is. Now let's see how you can recover and turn around and bring it back.
Right. We need to, and this game against Detroit, I think is going to tell us a lot about what this team actually is. Is it the team that beat the crap out of Green Bay on week 1, or is it the team that got their asses handed to them by Philly in week 2?
Right.
Now, like we talked about in our, when we picked the schedule and stuff, a few episodes ago, I had this game pegged as a loss. Now I kind of bought into the hype Monday, and on that last Eagles podcast we were on, I picked us to win, but I'm not necessarily pissed that we lost this game, because I kind of figured we were going to, but it was how we lost that just irritated the ever-loving crap out of me.
Yep.
But
it brings up bad memories. Honestly, it brought up bad memories, stuff that we had become accustomed to seeing under previous coaching. Let's hope we can move forward and in a positive fashion and get it done.
Right. And I mean, and that's the thing, we can't, it's easy to overreact to stuff like this, but we got to just take a step back and think about that. And this is part of the reason why we didn't record until Wednesday night instead of.
Yeah, I'm glad that we waited a few days before we record, honestly, because those knee-jerk reactions can be a killer.
Yeah. But I mean, you look, just for example's sake, that team from Wisconsin opening game last year, the Saints went in and stomped the snot out of them 38-3 or 38-7, whatever it was. And then they still turned around and finished the season at 13-4. So
exactly. You got to try to remain positive. We overreacted week 1 just as much as we overreacted week 2.
Yeah. So
let's see what week 3 brings us, and see where the mean or median is at as far as where we think we're going to be.
Right. One game does not a season make. We need to remember that.
No. We're going to crumple up and fold, or are we going to get up, stand up, and give them our best shot?
Yep. Dust ourselves off and go out there and start kicking ass again.
Yep. And I believe it helps that we're at home this week too.
Yeah, it can't hurt. So anyway, I think we'll put the Eagles game in the rearview mirror here, except for our weekly awards segment. as we know, we celebrate the good and the bad. We'll start off this week with the good, I guess, with what we call our Badass of the Week award.
Who is that guy? Whoever he is one tough badass.
Do you have a badass this week?
I do.
You do? Okay.
But he happens to be wearing green. And my badass of the week is Jalen Hurts, because there's nobody deserving on our team this week for the badass award.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts came out. He proved me wrong, that's for sure. He looked the part. I hope, for our sakes, if we see him again in the playoffs, we just throttle him. But you know what, Jalen, you earned the Badass of the Week award, and it's yours this week. So,
yeah. And I'm not giving anybody a badass award because I wasn't going to give anybody on the other team the badass. And like you said, nobody on our team deserved it. So nobody gets
Hurts
one.
Was impressive. That was impressive.
He was. But nobody gets a badass from me this week. So then we will roll into the not so good with what we call our Red Foreman Award for the week.
Son, you don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
All right, who you got for the Red Award?
I really couldn't bring myself to give one to any of the players because there are just so many. There's so many mistakes, and most of them were, a lot of them, that defense didn't do much. And the offense didn't do much either. But I'm going to have to give my Dumbass of the Week award to none other than Ed Donatel. You have to adjust. You can't keep running the same scheme as far as shell formation goes throughout the game. If it's not working, fix it. I'm sick of seeing us not being able to make adjustments throughout game as it goes on. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that was another thing. If I heard Troy Aikman say shell coverage one more time, I was going to lose my lunch too.
But he was right though.
Yeah, he was. He absolutely was. But yeah, and it was just baffling as to why we didn't change things up. I mean, week one, we saw all kinds of different exotic blitz or schemes and moving players around and stuff like that. And we really didn't see it against the Eagles, but
no, it's like a vanilla team showed up. What happened to last week? What happened to the team that we seen last week?
Yeah, it looked like they pulled the preseason playbook back out for this game.
Yeah.
For me, again, it's low hanging fruit, but I'm giving it to Cousins just for the simple fact of everything we talked about earlier. We don't need to rehash it again now, but come on, Kirk, you're supposed to be the guy. You got to do better than that when the light starts shining on you.
That brass ring was right there, waiting for you to reach up and grab it.
And instead you got brass knuckles to the face.
Yeah.
I
don't want to rig on Kirk too much this week. I don't want to be known as that podcast or those guys that all they do is talk shit about Kirk, because that's not it. We just call it like it is, and then call it like it is. When he plays good, we're gonna tell him, we're gonna stroke his ego and all that. But when he plays bad, we're gonna call him out on that too, just like we do anybody else on the team.
And the sad part is we have to keep explaining ourselves every time we tear into Kirk on something, because
yeah, right. It's like we have to put out a PCA or a PSA just because of we mentioned Kirk in the bad light. Then people are going to start labeling us as Kirk haters when we're not.
No.
I love Kirk when he's fucking playing good, but when he plays like shit, I'm not going to sit back and look for 1,000 excuses as to why things went wrong for him.
Right. So anyway, that's the awards for this week. Hopefully we have a little better to go off next week. But with that,
many deserving players, by the way,
for the Red Award,
just putting that out there as well.
Yeah, there was no shortage of players, coaches, or anything like that could have won the Red Foreman Award this week.
Bingo. Moving on.
Yep. With that, we're going to roll into another one of our classic beer commercials. So head over onto the fridge, grab yourself a cold one, crack it open, check this out, and we will be back in a minute.
You know, I finally found a beer I can respect. Light beer from Miller. It tastes great. But what I really like is it's less filling. Light has 1/3 less calories than their regular beer. I tell you, I gotta watch myself. This is a tough place. Well, this place is so tough, the hat check girl's name is Dominic. In a place like this, I gotta move fast. I can't afford to get filled up. I tell you, I don't get no respect.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
All right, we are back. And as we said before the break, we are putting the Eagles game in the rearview mirror. Thank God. And moving on to this week's opponent. The Motor City Kitties come into US Bank Stadium to face our Minnesota Vikings.
They're rolling.
This is not the same Detroit Lions that we've seen for years upon years upon years. I mean, we talked about this in the preseason that Detroit is going to be a much better team this year, and so far they've shown it.
They're sneaking up on teams is what they're doing. They're sneaking up on teams.
Yeah. Well,
this is a different Detroit team.
With that win against the Washington Commanders on last Sunday, they have now gone 4 straight games of 35 points or more.
Wow.
It's the first time they've done that since 1952 and 1953. 1,031 regular season games.
Dan Campbell's got that team going.
Yeah. And coincidentally, 1952, 1953 is when Detroit won their NFL championships.
Wow. What are you saying right now?
I'm saying we cannot take Detroit lightly this year.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. There you go.
Some of the number rankings between the two teams, offensive side of the things, Detroit is 4th in total yards.
That's scary right now, looking at that.
Yeah, we're 21st. Passing yards, they're 19th. We're 13th. They are 3rd in rushing. We're 21st. They are 6th in yards per play. We are 10th.
Damn flies.
Yeah. And they are 3rd in points.
Wow.
Whereas we are 25th. So that their offense is no joke.
Their offense doesn't scare me as much as a Philly offense does, just because Goff is not Jalen Hurts.
No, Goff isn't going to run around, and he can run an offense. He's gotten better every single year. He really has. He's no longer Goof. He's now, in my opinion, he is Jared Goff. Right. But I mean, they've got a very solid offensive line there too, which helps out a ton. I mean, you got
absolutely do.
You got Penei Sewell, you got Jonah Jameson, you've got Taylor Decker, you've got Frank Ragnow at center. That's a legit offensive line.
It is. It is.
Then of course on the otherwise on the offense, you've got DeAndre Swift, who is turning into a very good running back. He busted off 144 yards against the same Eagles defense that I think Cook had 21 yards rushing or something like that in the entire game. Beyond Swift, you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver.
Coming along.
He's 4th in the league in receptions through 2 games.
Yep.
And
yeah, he's coming along pretty good.
And they're using him in different ways too. I know they've run some jet sweeps and things with him and things like that too. Then on the other side, you've got DJ Chark too, who is a fairly solid number 2 wide receiver. I mean, he's been
known to make some plays in this league.
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave it at that for sure. And then you got Hawkinson on the inside as well, which I'm sure you're just going into right now. But yeah, you got Hawkinson there at tight end.
Who's
pushover.
One of the better tight ends in the league too. I mean, he's probably a top 10
and is
tight
still
end.
developing, in my opinion, too. He's only been in the league for 3 years, so I mean, he's not quite to his prime yet, but he's getting there.
Mm-hmm. And he has dealt with some injuries and things like that too. But
yep.
Then rolling over to the defensive numbers, not real great for either side of things here. In total yards, Detroit is 30th.
Oh,
we're 29th.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. Against the pass, they're 26th and we're 28th. Against the rush, they're 26th, we're 24th. Scoring defense, they are 31st. We're actually 6th.
We got some turnovers. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm talking about points given up, not.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Wow.
But they gave up 38 to Philly and 31 or whatever it was to Washington, whereas we gave up 24 to Philly and 7 to Green Bay. So, but then on the defensive side of things, Aiden Hutchinson is looking like the real deal
as advertised.
Everything he's got 3 sacks already this year.
Yep.
And had the opportunity. I know I watched that game against Washington. He had the opportunity for a couple more that he just missed out on.
You could just tell by the look of the kid and how he plays that he's going to be a hell of a player for years to come.
Yeah, that kid is going to cause us problems for quite a while, I'm afraid. But then beyond him, you've got Michael Brockers and Ali McNeil on the front line there. Then in the back end, you've got Jeffrey Okuda, who came in highly touted last year, dealt with some injuries. Alex Anzalone's on the other side, and our old buddy Mike Hughes is their starting nickel cornerback.
Wow.
Now, with their secondary, I think that's probably the weak point of their defense. You can't expose that secondary, so hopefully we can do more to get Jefferson.
It could turn into a slugfest this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely it could. DeAndre Swift.
Good old fashioned slobberknocker, yeah.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift scares me.
Yeah.
The way our run defenses look this year. Now, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury. He did not practice today, or he went through walkthroughs but didn't do any of the other stuff the way it sounded. Aiden Hutchinson also did not practice today, so that's he got dinged up in that game on Sunday. I got the injury report here pulled up for as of Wednesday anyway. Julian Aquara limited. Frank Ragnow was limited. Then Onwurzike, Onwurzike. He's one of their linebackers. He was a limited participant. Chris Board, who is one of their backup linebackers, plays a lot of special teams. He actually was full participant. And Tommy Kramer, one of their offensive linemen, did not participate either. So they're dealing with a little bit more on the injury bug than we are. On our side of things, of course, Harrison Smith still in concussion protocol, questionable as to whether or not he will play. And also Andrew Booth Jr. did not practice again on Wednesday. Wow. So, that was the knock on that kid.
Yeah.
All the way through college and stuff was he was always hurt. Now he played through the hurt a lot of times, but he's
not doing himself any favors.
No.
And not being able to stay on the field.
No. And if the hitman can't go this weekend, going to be.
It might be medalist. I don't know. Cena only got 1 snap after Smith went out.
Yeah, he didn't play much. Yeah, Metellus played quite a bit. I was kind of surprised that Cena didn't get more play this week. than he did.
Right.
And Cam Bynum, he looked awful in coverage.
Yeah,
on
he was
Monday.
pretty lost out there.
He didn't do himself any favors. So beyond that, like we talked about before, I think there are some opportunities for our defense to get after Goff. Like I said, we don't have to worry about him, getting outside the pocket and taking off and running a whole lot. I mean, he's about as mobility wise about the same as Kirk is.
Almost on the same level, right?
So, one thing I have seen a few times on passing situations that I do like is we're bringing, a lot of times we'll have 3 of our edge rushers in. We'll have Hunter Smith and DJ Wanham in at the same time.
Yeah.
They'll move Zadarius Smith inside and rush him in that way, and they'll have. So that, I mean, that's giving us some opportunities there.
I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Wanham, honestly, these first 2 weeks of the season.
Wanham has played pretty well. Patrick Jones has played pretty well too. I thought. So
I saw Jones bite on a couple of those options, but they were hard. They were hard fakes.
Yeah,
on those option plays,
and everybody was biting on those options. That was a problem. I mean, you had the superstar players, your Hunters and Wanhams and Harrison Smith. I saw even take a bad angle. Got fooled once or twice out there.
Yep.
So it wasn't just Jones. It was everybody that was getting.
Yeah,
and we talked about that. We won't get back to the Philly stuff, but
right.
And I kind of hate to say this because we harped and bitched about it so much last year. We almost need to get Dalvin Cook more involved in the running game than what we've seen so far. Because Cook has always been one of those guys that you got to keep feeding him in order to get him rolling.
Or just find ways to get him the ball, whether it be handing it off to him or having him run a tree out, or run a few routes out of the backfield.
Right. Just no more of those damn stand right in the middle of the pocket and the offensive line and everybody in this scrum and throw those stupid screen passes, because those don't work.
No. They haven't been working. Maybe in the game in the future they will work, because that seems always every year we have a couple of good screen games. It just happens, but we'll see.
Right.
As of right now, I don't want to see that shit either.
No.
So,
but I mean, I do want to see Cook get a little more involved with the run game. I do think we can take advantage, like I mentioned earlier, about taking advantage of their secondary. I think there's opportunities there. But again, we don't need to be forcing it to Jefferson every time. I mean, Adam Thielen was invisible until the fourth quarter on Monday. He's still a very, very good possession receiver. Get him the ball.
KJ is too.
KJ the ball. Irv Smith, I mean, he had that one bad drop.
I like Johnny Munt more than I'm digging Irv Smith at this point, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, Johnny Munt had a couple of nice catches.
He came up pretty big in some crucial situations.
But I want to see that this offense find its rhythm back again and get out there, be aggressive.
Be aggressive.
Yeah, because we were way too tentative Monday night. We got to get back out there and attack. Attack smart, though. We don't need to have these stupid, piss poor interceptions that they had no business throwing. But if it's a good throw and the defender makes a play on it, it happens. But these god awful, what the hell was he thinking passes? We can't do that.
Right.
Defensively, we got to figure out how to stop DeAndre Swift, assuming he plays, which I'm guessing he will. But the run defense so far has not been anything really better than anything. It hasn't been any better than it was last year.
I don't know. Our pass defense got pretty exposed last week. So I would say that eliminate the big plays would be huge on my list of things that we need to do this week.
Yeah. St. Brown, you're going to have to account for him. Patrick Peterson again, last week still seemed slow. He's
Right.
a step behind the receivers and things like that. So now again,
I don't trust Peterson one-on-one, man-to-man anymore in his career.
Not through the first 2 weeks, we haven't seen it. I mean,
No.
And maybe he's still not knocking the rust off.
No.
But it's been 2 games now. The rust should be knocked off. So time to step it back up if there's still anything left to step back up this week.
Well, I'm obviously rooting for him, but I mean,
Oh,
what I have
absolutely,
seen up to this point this year, I'm not liking.
Yeah, but
outside of the one block field goal on special teams.
Right.
So,
but beyond that, I mean, anything else that you're picking out you want to see out of this game coming up?
eliminate the big plays, the embarrassing plays. Continue to, yes. We had more penalties this last week than we had the week before. We need to eliminate that crap.
Mm-hmm.
Who the fuck was? Excuse my language. I've been cussing a lot today, but that's just because I'm frustrated.
Right.
This referee crew we had last week. You never blame the refs, but what kind of idiots did we have for the refs this last week? For both teams, they were calling stupid fucking penalties. So
I have honestly never seen.
No, I have never seen
that many illegal man downfield penalties in my life.
Yeah.
Now I can see it though with the Eagles because Hurt starts running around, moving around, things like that. So
and then somebody gets downfield. That's not supposed
they
to.
go take off to go block downfield, and then all of a sudden he hauls up and tosses it. I mean, that happens, I guess, but there seemed just to be a overabundance of them.
And then there was plays that should have been penalties on both sides of the ball that didn't get called either. So
yeah, there was a lot of those. They were for talking about making an emphasis on those illegal contact plays. There were several of them that I saw that didn't get called both ways.
But we're not here to complain about the refs too, and I brought it up. My bad, but I was not impressed with the refereeing this week.
No,
this Monday night either. So
and I haven't heard yet who
we need to who we got this week for a refereeing.
Yeah, I haven't heard who the referee crew is for this week yet.
All I know is that we need to make more big plays happen, and we need to eliminate the big plays happening against us.
Yeah.
And O'Connell's got to open that playbook up and figure out how to get his key players involved in the game. Not just one player, but getting Cook involved and getting Thielen involved and spreading the ball around.
Mm-hmm.
With a good offense, you need to be able to spread the ball around to everybody, not just one person. So.
Right. And showing that you're spreading it around to Thielen, to Osborne, to Munt, to Herb, to whoever, it's going to open up more stuff for Jefferson.
Right. And you make sure, we had the Randy ratio back in the day. You make sure Jefferson gets his touches, but you also, you have to realize there's other players on the team that are deserving of getting the ball in their hands as well.
Yep.
Make more than just one Reed Kirk.
Right. For me, again, saying, kind of to what you were saying, eliminate the mistakes that we made on Monday. Be smart with the football, be aggressive, but be smart. None of this tentative playing scared type thing that the offense seemed like it did this week. To, go back to what worked for you week 1 against Green Bay. Run your motions and you're moving players around and this, that, and everything else to create mismatches so that you can take shots down the field.
I want to see that mastermind come out again this week.
Right. And on the defensive side of things, like I said, we got to stop the run. I've harped on it for 3 weeks straight here, but I'm going to keep harping on it until they finally start doing it. And we got to start figuring out, we got too many talented players on this defense for it to be as bad as
game planning. It all comes down to game planning, honestly, at the end of the day.
But
it does.
We said that last year too, and new staff, new game plan. It's not any better yet. Week 1 it was, but last week it sure as hell wasn't.
Yeah, if you know what your weaknesses are, you got to figure out what to do to cover that up, to put a Band-Aid on it or whatever it might be, to continue to be successful in spite of what your weaknesses are.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you need to go back to that, again, the illusion of complexity thing, start, showing different looks and things like that. And if we got to start, bring some pressure on a blitz or something, we haven't really blitzed much this, so far this year. But,
our safeties aren't moving around either, but this is a different defensive scheme as well. You're not seeing Smith up in the box like he had been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, if you're not going to have, bring him up, but then put him back again, whatever.
Yeah.
Figure something out.
But
Goff
Goff is
defense.
But Goff is one of those guys. If you hit him a few times and start getting him rattled, he'll start making mistakes too. So we need to do that. We need to get after him early.
Confuse the kid.
Yeah,
the best that we can.
Right, and we need, like I said, we need to get points right off the get go, and keep our foot on that gas until the end. Because as we've seen, like we talked about earlier, Detroit scored 35 points the last 4 games. Even look at the week one when they played Philly, they were down like 28-7, and they came back out damn near won the damn thing.
Right. We need to be aggressive, keep our foot on the gas pedal. Don't play not to lose, play to win.
Yep.
It's been an issue the last few years as well on this team as a core unit and veterans and all that shit. Play to win. Don't play not to lose.
Yep.
So yeah, I want to see more aggressiveness. I want to see players that know what the fuck they're doing on the field. Excuse my French again, but yes.
All right. So prediction time. What do you got for this week?
It's gonna be close, man. It's gonna be close. It's a divisional game. Campbell's gonna have his team fired up and ready. We are at home, so that helps. I would love for us to come out and blow them out, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. I'm gonna go 31-28 Vikings.
Okay. I honestly too, I think this needs to be a statement game for this team. We need to come out, and I have confidence that that's what they're going to do. I'm going to say we come out with a little bit with more fire on both sides of the ball. And I'm going to say we actually win this one pretty handily. I'm going to go 10-point win, 37-27.
I hope so. It's not very, and you know what, people, Rhino doesn't usually do that. You're not the one that comes out and says we're gonna.
I usually try picking it pretty close, but
this is one of the few times where I've actually heard you come out and with a confident pick like that. So I hope it rings true.
Now it'll blow up in my face, but that's my pick, and I'm going to stick with it.
That's my story.
And I'm sticking to it. All right. So with that, we have come to the best segment of the show. We look back at those who have worn number 77 in this week's edition of Brunswick's Best. So who you got on your list this week, Brunswick?
I got 3 for us this week. Surprisingly, I was surprised. Well, kind of. So we'll go chronological order as we always do. First on the list, easy pickings here. Gary Larson, the original number 77 in purple and gold. In the minds of a lot of the Vikings, old school Vikings fans, is defensive tackle Gary Larson. The often overlooked member of the Purple People Eaters, Larson was known as the policeman. The player who covered the run while Alan Page, Jim Marshall, and Cara Eller went after the opposing quarterbacks. Still, though, Larson managed to rack up 38.5 sacks in his career, unofficially, of course, because sacks weren't an official stat when Larson retired. He really was a huge force in the middle of the Vikings defensive line. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler, part of the Minnesota Vikings 25th anniversary team, and also one of the 50 greatest Vikings. Gary, you made the list. Moving along, Mark Mulaney. Mulaney, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan.
Mulaney.
Mark Mulaney. Now, after Larson, the number went to defensive end Mark Mulaney. He was selected by the Vikings in the first round, 25th overall of the 1975 NFL Draft. He played defensive end for the Vikings from 1975 until 1987. Mulaney took over Carl Eller's starting spot in 1979, and he had held the job until he left the team. He's credited with 45 and a half sacks by the team, which puts him 9th actually overall in Vikings history. Mulaney also had 597 tackles and 13 forced fumbles in his career. Big numbers.
He was a good player.
Yeah, by all accounts, from what I researched and all that, yeah, he was a hell of a good player.
I can remember him playing, so I nice. He was right in that wheelhouse when I first started, understanding football and things like that. So
he also holds the distinction of being the first NFL player to wear what, Rhino? A visor. He was the first player to wear a visor.
He was the first visor guy, huh?
After suffering an eye injury in 1984. Him and the light in my room got really weird. But anyways, him and one of the team's officials actually devised the first visor to be worn by the NFL player, Mulaney, and obviously throughout the years, the visor has become more and more used by a lot of players. So there's a little bit of trivia for you as well. So
I did not know that.
That was weird, wild stuff. I did not know that.
Yep. Mark, you and your visor made the list today, buddy. And last but not least, and all of its somber and sadness, we have the late, great Corey Stringer. The man, the number 77 was retired for, was offensive tackle Corey Stringer. And this guy was right in my wheelhouse. Right when I started watching the Vikings play, is one of the original guys I remember back in the mid-90s. A first-round pick of the Vikings in 95. Stringer developed into one of the NFL's best offensive tackles at the right tackle spot. He was a standout on the offensive line, earning Pro Bowl honors in what turned out to be his final season in 2000, and was set to move to tackle in 2001 following the departure of Todd Stussy. He was just entering what should have been his prime, and his future looked bright. In 6 NFL seasons, he played in 93 regular season games and started 91 of them. As a professional player, Stringer was well liked inside the locker room and outside of the locker room. One time, actually, after a Vikings game, Corey stopped to help a fan change a flat tire on his vehicle, and he impulsively signed over his Pro Bowl appearance check to a youth football program in his hometown of Warren. But with that being said, we all know what happened on the 1st of August of 2001. Following a Vikings practice on a particularly hot day in Mankato, Stringer collapsed on the field and ultimately passed away at the far too young age of 27. Corey, you're still missed by a lot of fans, by a lot of former players, and you will never be forgotten. Corey, rest in peace. You made the list, and you deserve to be on the list.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, that is the end of my list this week.
All right. With that, that's really all we've got for this week. Again, thank everybody for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, we would appreciate it very much if you would do so. Hit that red subscribe button down below. We're up over 600 subscribers now. We've really taken a jump since the season started. So thank you everybody who's watching and subscribing. Let's keep it going. Let's keep that built up. Again, if you're out and about, take us with you, whether it be audio cast, whether it be the YouTube channel. Sunday morning, again, we will have this episode on our Facebook page as your unofficial pregame show for the Lions and Vikings game, which starts at noon Central Time. Beyond that, why don't you take us out of here, Lance?
Also, of course, if you're watching us on Facebook, please take the time to go to YouTube if you have a YouTube account and subscribe to the channel.
And if you don't, get a YouTube account and go and subscribe. We would really appreciate it.
What a sobering loss that was this week. Hopefully, we can turn it around and get back into the swing of things and start kicking some ass.
Mm-hmm.
KOC, I'm with you. I'll be with you all season. Let's go out and get it done. Give us fans something to believe in. We want to see some consistency around here. I hate riding the roller coaster in the season.
Yeah.
Although you will, but
well, let's try to at least keep it on that upward trend as much as possible.
Right. Exactly. With that being said, let's go out and kick some Lions ass this weekend. And hopefully next week we come out with a positive attitude after a nice win against Detroit at home. Skol.
Have a good weekend, everybody.